Jay Gabler, Duluth News Tribune arts and entertainment reporter, back with another special episode of the DNT Minute featuring my column, Front Row Seat. This week I recount a truly unforgettable experience I had watching the debut of a giant glowing moose that has come to Duluth to stay. It was a scene straight out of a fantasy movie. As darkness fell over a thick patch of forest on private land just outside city limits, a warmly glowing moose stepped out from among the trees. As haunting music filled the air, the life-size puppet wandered through the woods and slowly made his way to a hushed cluster of onlookers. He peered from person to person, and when one viewer raised a hand to touch the moose's nose, the animal gently nodded and lowered his head. Scientists use the term charismatic megafauna to describe the kind of big animals that humans love to look at. And in that spirit, you could say the moose is Duluth's newest charismatic megapuppet. You can expect to see it join Max Skeleton at this year's All Souls Night event, November 2nd. Mary Plaster, the artist who founded Duluth's All Souls Night, brought master puppeteer Andrew Kim to Duluth to create the moose in collaboration with Minneapolis puppet pros and Northland youth. Plaster's inspiration, she said, came when she participated in a workshop with the England-based Kim. We built a unicorn and a dragon, and as we built the unicorn, I just kept seeing a moose, said Plaster, waiting for the newly built creature to make its grand appearance before a small invited audience June 26th. She continued, I caught Kim while he was at the National Puppetry Conference in Connecticut and convinced him to take a plane here. It's been a really great group of artists, said Kim. Usually when I teach this kind of thing, it's for professional adult artists. In Duluth, we had 4 high school students working with the adult professionals. I didn't know how that was going to go, but actually that was quite delightful. Kian Troke, one of those young students, was among the puppeteers who took turns operating the moose during its first encounter with an audience. Moving the moose is managed by a pair of people who wear the puppet on a harness. Troke said the puppetry is hard physically, but it's easy to connect with viewers emotionally. This really broadened my horizons, Troke said about the experience. It improved my communication skills and my teamwork because I had to communicate with the person who was walking behind me the whole time. They learned a lot of techniques, said Kian's mother, Christina Troke. They built a structure first, and then they learned how to mold clay over the structure. Then they used a plastic composite material in order to create a more lightweight form. After that, they learned how to articulate the body parts and do the electrical work with the lighting of the lantern. Eduardo Sandoval Luna, who has been a regular part of the All Souls Night events with his Oasis del Norte food truck, said that Plaster invited his son Adan to participate in the Moose Workshop because she knew of the boy's interest in art. We really like to be part of it, Sandoval Luna said about All Souls Night, because that all comes from my culture. While Plaster's event is similar to Mexico's Day of the Dead tradition, said Sandoval Luna, it typically takes place a short while later so as not to exactly overlap. It's a really cool experience for people that have never seen that part of the culture, Sandoval Luna said. It was amazing to learn the techniques from Andrew about how to make these puppets from the ground up, said Adan Sandoval Luna. I learned soldering and I learned how to work with the reeds that we use and learned how to work with the paper as well and to work with a special material for the head, which is a mixture of plastic and sawdust. The Arrowhead Regional Arts Council supported Kim's Duluth residency. Dominique Herskind and Steve Ackerman were among 5 adult artists who came to Duluth from Minneapolis to participate in the week-long puppet build. Getting to make one of these, it's kind of a coveted thing, said Herskind. People pay money to take these workshops and travel across the country to do them, so to be asked by Mary to help out was really just an honor. There's an intricate process to each of the steps, explained Ackerman. That's kind of just what puppetry is. It's the passing down of knowledge from artists to artists. The young people worked right alongside us, Ackerman said. That was awesome. Their eyes were so lit up, said Herskind. They just loved it. We've had so much fun, and it's cool to show high schoolers puppetry to get them into it. Kim has a high standard of excellence, said Plaster. She described the moose's structure as really solid but lightweight. I'm going to put some kind of varnish on and make it fairly water resistant. The finished puppet measures 7.5 feet tall at the shoulders by 9 feet long. When held by operators, the puppet towers over 10 feet tall. Grand Rapids artist Leah Yellowbird now has the puppet's antlers and hind legs, which she'll be embellishing, according to Plaster. Plaster hopes the moose will last for years as something beautiful to remind Northlanders of how vulnerable our real-life moose population remains. I'm glad they're maintaining numbers, said Plaster, and just hoping the spirit of this moose calls them back home. Kim has become renowned for his articulated lantern puppets, which use internal LED illumination to give the giant creatures a magical quality. I figured out a way to actually work with artists to create something that's really satisfying and meaningful, he said. So I'm not just teaching a skill, I'm leaving the host organization a product that they can use for other events. Puppetry is magical, said Herskin, and it's so cool to do it. Looking around at the couple dozen community members who gathered to see the moose step forth, Kim said, I think they'll be very proud of the work their family and their friends have contributed because the result is, I think, really lovely. A symbol of all the hands and creativity that have come together to make this. That's this week's column. And if you're curious to see that moose, well, you can head over to DuluthNewsTribune.com to see my column online with photographs by Clint Austin and also a bit of video so you can see what that moose looks like when it moves. Then you can see the moose in person this year on November 2nd at Duluth's All Souls Night event. I'll be back next week with another column about what? I haven't decided yet. Until then, I'm Jay Gabler, Duluth News Tribune.